Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the final rival recon of the season here on Anfield Index Pro. I'm Hari Sethi. The champions have finally reached the end of their procession, with Virgil van Dijk set to lift the Premier League trophy this Sunday afternoon at what's sure to be a raucous but joyous Anfield. Arne Slot's side may have dropped off, understandably, since confirming their place as champions a few weeks back, but nothing will dampen the mood of Reds fans around the city and around the world over the next few days, and let's face it, for many, many months after that as well. I'll be heading up myself, luckily, to enjoy that final game of the season and witness my first trophy parade on the Monday. And for all those listeners lucky enough to be making the trip, I wish you well, safe travels, and perhaps we can raise a glass together over the next few chaotic days. Sunday's game sees the newly crowned FA Cup winners Crystal Palace arrive at Anfield in their own buoyant mood after their win last weekend against Manchester City. So joining me to discuss what sort of party atmosphere may await us on Sunday and just how this win can propel Crystal Palace forward, I'm delighted to be joined again by Joe Walker from the International Clearance and 5-Year Plan podcasts. Welcome back, Joe. End of the season. Good to chat with you. Been an eventful one.
Yes, thank you for having me on again. I feel like we've lived several lifetimes since the last time we played each other. So much has changed. And I feel like both clubs, maybe that, in fact, that's probably me over saying it. I think from my perspective, my memory of playing you early this season, your defense was beginning to show itself already. And, you were allowing, there was a quiet confidence that actually you were one of the strongest starters of the season. And that never really let off, did it? I think I was maybe a little bit more doubtful that, I think it was pretty soon after you'd lost at home to Forest. And I think I'd seen a fair amount of chances. And I just thought, actually, maybe that play really well into us. And it never really materialised. And I don't think it really materialised for anybody else this season. It's just been, if I do say so myself, it's been a really impressive season in campaign entirely from Liverpool. I think I've noticed that due to the sort of fits and starts and coughing and spluttering of who would be seen as your usual rivals to a title, that's been used as if a way to diminish what you've achieved, which I don't actually think is fair, really. I can't really fault how you guys have done this season.
Yeah, no, I think, obviously, thank you. I think you're right. There's been a pretty frugal sort of defensive display this season up until obviously Club Tropicana over the past few weeks, because it's really been that's been the case. I think the number of chances we're now letting get into our box is pretty crazy, but then again you can't really blame them. But no, I do know what you mean. I think it was a bit of a weird feeling this season around after the past 5 or 6 years, missing out so narrowly a number of times, maybe when the team's been performing at an even higher kind of sort of all cylinders because they had to. It felt weird this season that wasn't the case. I think at different points, Liverpool fans unwilling to really accept it, even when it became clearer and clearer and the gap got bigger and bigger, just because you're so used to looking over your shoulder and seeing that sort of Manchester City Death Star kind of looming down, and just wasn't there this time. I think there wasn't really a title race. I think no matter what the points totals show at the end, there wasn't really a race, and so I suppose the way in which Liverpool did it is kind of indicative of their new manager and sort of like the way in which he carries himself. He's been pretty composed, calm all season, aside from Michael Oliver on the Goodison Derby, for which I have to say, that will still annoy me in a few years' time, actually, just because it was pretty disgraceful. But I'm speaking to you, obviously a few days on, more than that now, from Crystal Palace's first ever sort of like silverware, if you will, like in terms of sort of the win, FA Cup win over Manchester City. And I mean, I don't really want to talk about the Premier League at this point. I'll talk about the FA Cup and just for listeners. So I was over in the US whilst this game was on. So I went to a Liverpool bar early morning in New York to sort of watch that, and it was it was an interesting kind of situation because I turned up, bar's pretty empty, it's not a Liverpool fixture or whatever, but then people started to come in. I was sat at the bar with, to my left, two United fans, next to them, two Arsenal fans, a West Ham fan, and then a couple of Liverpool fans as well. And it was the only thing I can describe it as is basically that, I don't know, like there's many versions of that photo of like the Crips and the Bloods, like with the defects like tied together. It was a collective hate watch, if you will. People there sat there, all willing the same thing, and obviously hoping Palace did it. And I think different to last night, we'll come on to talk about the Europa League final. This match was, this is a good football match to watch, and thought Palace had a game plan, came in, executed that. But just tell me your thoughts and feelings about everything, the match, the day, because I know you would have set off early and everything. But just tell me as much as you want.
Well, where to start? You have all these ideas of how you'll react, how you'll feel, what you'll do in the ensuing kind of aftermath. If you dare to dream and actually achieve it, it was kind of pretty much out of body for the first 5-10 minutes after that final whistle. Strangely, as you can imagine, very little care for the controversy of some of the game. That subsided very quickly. In game, no one in the ground was really sure what was going on around that. A bit confusing on the Henderson handball, but that would have probably killed us in the moment. But the belief in the stadium, I think, we've been in the final in my lifetime once before in 2016, and it felt like the culmination of that team's kind of run. So a lot of them were the promoted side, and while there was talent in there, it felt like this was their day in the sun. Whatever happened, like it was just the peak of their career achievements. Many of them, it was the kind of last couple of years of their time at Palace. This was very much a different run. It felt like the team we've got are all going to achieve great things at other clubs in the future with the kind of early steps in a lot of their careers. And that has actually really helped in this run. It's not meant that they are not committed or mercenaries or anything, but I think they're ambitious players. They know the value of performing at big occasions, big platforms, rather than being wobbly-legged and nervous about it. I think they've relished it. And that's been really apparent in this run. The quarter-final at Fulham, which ended up being particularly emphatic. The semi-final at Wembley against Villa was probably the most confident, emphatic Palace performance I've ever seen. And that performance really allowed everyone, my friends and family, everyone I know that went, to think that if we put our best foot forward, we had a really good chance. And the fans backed them all the way as a result. And then there's just really well-timed moments that both lift Palace and just suck the life out of any Man City enthusiasm, whether that's the goal out of nowhere on the counter, whether that's the penalty save. It just allowed us to, obviously, you're biting your nails off and can't look at the pitch for some of that second half. But when that final whistle went, I think there's a minute to go. Allow yourself to finally believe it's possible. And it was just tears everywhere. There's actually, if you look back on the highlights for the final whistle, it's not a particularly loud cheer from the Palace end. It's quite muffled because I think people were just whimpering and falling into people's arms and stuff. It was really quite an odd scene, but one I was also reacting to in the same way. We're not there very often, so you immediately start to think of who's not made it, who's not lived to see this happen, who is part of your history as a football supporter, a Palace supporter. It's just really difficult not to get emotional in those moments. And I know there was the Tifo that went very famous, did the rounds for the final. They did a very similar one in the semi-final that had a kind of similar sentiment. And it kind of speaks to how we all felt as a fan base in these games. Most of those times are an opportunity to intimidate the opposition or, make it go to somebody else, make it about them. And actually, I think everybody knew that the meaning of getting to a stage like this is so unusual for us that it's difficult not to think about why you fall in love with a club, who and what made you fall in love with football and your football club, and again, who on the way helped you in that journey, who maybe wasn't there on the day. And that just seemed to power us in the stands, but also the players, who many of whom had donated to that fan display. It was all crowdfunded, but the players got involved, and it just meant it was a magical day. It's still weird seeing our name in all these graphics about the end of season trophy winners, our Wikipedia with an actual trophy winner thing next to it. It's the top of the mountain, and it feels lovely. I could talk another hour here, Harry, so I'll stop in a second. But I think one of the main gripes Palace fans have had over the last 2 years, especially, is that there is this talent pool of players that we've been getting in. There is this promise of form that we've shown, particularly under the back end of certain seasons. And the growing sentiment has often been, even though it's all new to us, the what if question has been mentioned a couple of times. Have we maximized the squads that we've had? Have we wasted our opportunity not signing enough squad depth to really supplement the best players? Have we just started seasons too slowly and meant that when we have a Michael Elise, we didn't make the best of him? Have we had talented enough managers to make the use of... we had Patrick Vieira. Patrick Vieira had Michael Elise, Eberechi Chiesa, Wilfried Zaha, Conor Gallagher, and Jean-Philippe Mateta, and he started them together once, literally once, and it was a 4-0 win over Everton. So, I don't know, of course he decided never to do it again. So there'll be all these questions as time passed, and you think about, we haven't got these players very long, and in comes Oliver Glasner and has actually managed it, has actually made history. So we're quite a moany, grumpy, cynical fan base, despite the reputation we have for the ultras and the atmosphere at Selhurst, but everyone's pretty calm and happy right now. It's very unusual, and it should make, given what mood Liverpool fans are in right now, it should make for a particularly strange, surreal day at Anfield.